You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 329. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, author of How to Get On Podcasts, the podcast matchmaker, and CEO and founder of the MLG Collective. I'm excited to share the stories and life lessons of changemakers and authors with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, and today, Hazel Says No. It is the novel debuting by Jessica Berger Gross, and it is so good. I keep saying in the interview and also when I introduce this as one of my summer reads that this is a meant for Netflix series that Jessica has written. It is about a family that moves to Maine, and the high school student is propositioned on day one by her principal. It is jaw-dropping to begin with, and then it's told from the perspective of all four members of the family. It is so good. And the moment that there was in the middle of the book, the aha for me, I had to message Jessica and tell her, and it was the same for her writing it. She is such an absolute delight. I know you're going to love hearing about her journey and how this book came about. So get ready. Hi, Jessica.
Hi.
I am so happy to get to meet you and talk to you today. And when this airs, it is your pub day. So happy pub day.
Why, thank you. Thank you for
So
having me.
my pleasure. Can you take a moment to introduce yourself to everyone, please?
Sure. My name is Jessica Berger Gross. I'm a writer originally from New York. I live in Maine and have for the past 10 years. And I've written lots of other kinds of things, but my debut novel, Hazel Says No, is my first fiction, my first published fiction, my first really um, stab at fiction, period. And it comes out in June today.
Today.
And yeah, I'm excited to talk to you about it.
Me too. And I love that you live in Maine since the family moves to Maine. Now, I have never been to Maine.
Mm.
So I was kind of like, oh, I want to move to this cute little town where you can walk 10 minutes and there's a downtown. It sounded so idyllic.
Um, yes, and that's true. I can walk to the library. We have a new wonderful independent bookstore, Oliver and Friends. We have a new wonderful art center that I can walk to. It's an independent movie theater, probably the best one for sure. Actually, the best one in the state. But it's interesting. When I got here 10 years ago, the downtown was not thriving at all, and we went through a period where a lot of the storefronts were boarded up, and so it's been a slow and steady work in progress of revitalization of the downtown. And now to go to a First Friday and to have it just be absolutely bustling, and to have so much, and really very art centered actually. So it's very sweet. But it's a town that definitely we have our share of problems like any place else. And it's not, just the Gilmore Girls and that, but the collision of those two ideas, the fantasy of small town Maine and then the reality of, the problems of real life, the problems we're facing in the country and the world that happen, on a day-to-day level here. That's part of what inspired me to write Hazel Says No.
I love that in the book. I mean, we know why she says no right away. It is from the get-go where I don't read synopsis really. I don't read the back covers. I just want to go in and read it. And I was like, holy shit, where's this book gonna go?
Yeah, you start out, it's an intense beginning, and then you go on a journey with each member of the family, for sure.
Which was so unique because I love that, every family, we are all on a journey, each individual, and then we come together as the family unit and the family's on their own journey. And we get this inside look as to what each person is working through, struggling with, because they've moved to this new town. Everything's a new experience. And then they have all of this drama. And really, each person in the family has a story that's going along that really has drama to it. One bigger than the other, but then you argue, well, is it really bigger than the other? And how it all comes together and how they come together as a family. I see this as a TV miniseries or a TV series. I really do.
That well, two things. First of all, it was really important to me to show all the members of the family and to live in, for us as readers, for everyone as readers to live inside the different family members' heads. Because I think when we're in a family, each person matters as much as the next, of course, right? And each point of view is very distinct. So what Wolf, the younger brother, experiences in the family is not exactly the same as what Hazel, his older sister, experiences. And Gus and Claire, the parents, have totally different experiences too, within the family, within the marriage, within the town. And so I really wanted to capture that and to really give equal weight to the different family members. In a lot of ways, yeah, it's Hazel's story, but really the domino effects. I mean, everyone has their storyline, and for everyone, it's the year where everything changes. And I love that you say that about the TV show, because actually, I love TV almost as much as TV and film, almost as much as I love books. And there was particularly great TV happening during the years I was writing Hazel Says No. And I would sit and watch some of it, either with my husband or my son. And especially with my son, I would always, sometimes I'd be like, we'd be watching something that was, sort of a good watch for both of us, like Never Have I Ever or something. And I'd be like, oh, saying lines of like, what was going to happen next? And he's like, you've got to be in a writer's room, And I did think about this book cinematically as I was writing it. And also, I think part of what made me keep going and like have the grit and determination to just do it, even when it seemed very unlikely, was this idea of, just like opening up new possibilities for me as a writer and a creative person that I knew would never happen if I didn't create something that was just very me and very special and like, something that I could offer. And then people be like, maybe I will ask her to join my writer's room. So, yeah. So, and then full circle. So now I do have like book to TV film agents, and, we're going to take it out on submission this month in June. And so that's really exciting to me too. I respect really good TV, the storytelling of it, and all that goes into it, and the collaborative nature. But my first love, definitely books.
I love it. I also I'm a big fan of if you can be entertained by a book, but then there are not even subliminal, it's like in your face issues that are brought up that are important that we need to talk about. And your book does that on so many levels. I was so excited that I sent you a message in the middle of it. And anyone who knows me, who knows the way I read, is if there's something where I'm like, oh, and it moves me or it does something, I will reach out to the author. And I like to say I'm very annoying. I'm like, hey, Jessica, so this part in the book, oh yes. And you know what I'm talking about. And it's like this huge pivotal moment that just it rocks Hazel, it rocks everything. And I feel like it changes the entire story and the trajectory of where it goes.
I wish I knew. I mean, I feel like there are a few different ones it could be. I think I know.
It's where she goes to the college with her dad.
Oh, yeah. That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. For me, writing. Oh, right. And we did have that DM about it, because writing that was very like magical fingers, sort of out of body, like that. Writing a very early version of that chapter, and no spoilers, but made me feel like it made sense to try and to continue and to try and do this, to try and write the whole thing, and maybe have like a bigger way of doing it and approaching it, and thinking that I could handle like a bigger scene where a lot is going on, and you have big ideas, but you have characters with like very intense emotions, and you have drama and you have humor. And so, yeah, that was, I'd say, a major turning point for me, actually. And I have, with that chapter, I have heard from even people like in the publishing or film industry, like along the way, who, you know, like an older man who would like write to my agent and be like, I started crying at that, like actual tears. So yeah, I appreciate that moved you so much too, because that was definitely also like, how can I take what I felt in a moment kind of like that and bring it to the page. So like, that was where the magic happened for me, feeling that I could maybe somehow like convey the electricity that I felt, experiencing something that inspired that chapter.
I love it. I felt moved. I felt like I was in the room during all of it. So and you could it was I think this was really the part where I went, "Oh, this could be a TV series," because I felt it like you build to that point and it feels realistic. You're going, "Oh, this could totally happen." Like the entire book could happen. We see a lot of it coming out. There's sexual assault, there is anti-Semitism, there are all of these very real things in your book that we do see happening every day here.
Yes. I mean, oh my gosh, I was writing the first draft. So my son, who's 17, he's finishing 11th grade now. And I got the idea when he was starting 6th grade and started writing then. So it was right on the cusp, like all the first wave of Me Too reporting, like the She Said, Jodi Kantor, Megan Twohey, all that stuff was sort of unfolding as I was writing the draft, the first draft. Um, and then, of course, has continued to unfold. And the anti-Semitism, I mean, I knew there were stories of things that had happened here in Maine, but honestly, also there was something that had happened to my family in the first house that I lived in, like as a baby in Long Island. It just, these things do happen, and it's kind of not now, but there are other times where it's easier to forget that this stuff happens here. But there were a couple rounds of drafts with early readers where I remember a conversation with a writer friend who was like, well, do you think this is realistic? That this could happen? And I was like, let me show you these articles and let me tell you about this thing that happened to me. And then for the book to come out now, yeah, exactly, it's so realistic, on all levels. Like, it's just, it couldn't be more realistic. The anti-Semitism, the sexual harassment, attempted assault, like all of it. So yeah, I wish it was less realistic, and then the other thing I want to say about all that is, for me as a reader, I love to be swept up in, I love like a smart, funny, literary, not, that's my jam. And, when you're reading and the book feels more real life than your real life, like you're really transported, almost like when you're a child and you're reading Anne of Green Gables or something like that. I wanted to try to do that for the reader, because it sounds cheesy, but I'm honestly so grateful to all the writers who have done that for me as a reader, because that's such a special experience.
Yeah, it definitely felt that way. Although my life feels real, but it definitely felt real because it is realistic. It really is. Like there's nothing fantastical about it where you're going, "Oh, that wouldn't have happened." Because it is happening. We see it happening unless you live under a rock and you're closing your eyes and looking the other way. It's all very realistic and happening,
Right.
unfortunately. Um,
And what Hazel says early on is, it happens every day. It just happened to happen to me today. And so that was that kind of thread was important to me too. That it could happen to any of us. It does happen to a lot of us. And yeah.
And I do love, and no spoilers, but I love how she comes, the arc of it all, how she comes in at the end of what she realizes, what her path is. This, I don't want to call it an awakening, but like this, okay, this is not the truth, but this is reality. Yes, this happened to me. This is how I'm going to use it going forward. I'm going to find my way. And it makes you wonder, because I know she wonders, like, if this didn't happen, then what if?
That's true. I mean, maybe it's like a teeny bit of hope or some nugget of some thought for us in our situation now, like the current political situation. Like, when things are awful, like, how do you move through that towards something better? And how do you kind of deal with, and I think teenagers right now are better at it than we are, because they've had so much practice, like growing up in this environment of just like, how do you say, okay, this is the situation, and then how do I work to change it? How do I like live and thrive within it? How do I help others and connect with others within it? And that's kind of like the question that we're facing now.
Yeah. That none of us have the answers to.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
keep waking up each day
Yeah,
and keep going.
right.
I want to hear about what it was like before you wrote this novel. What were you doing? What were you writing? And what inspired you to take on your first novel?
Okay, so I published a memoir called Estranged: Leaving Family and Finding Home with Scribner from Simon and Schuster in like 2017, I think it was. Um, that was a memoir that actually came after. Do you remember Amazon Kindle singles? They were like some of these first kind of shorter digital only
Hmm.
books. And I'd been given an opportunity by an editor there to write about my estrangement from my family. I stopped speaking to my family and became estranged from them in my late 20s, like right before, like around 28, 29. At the time, no one talked about estrangement. And I didn't even have like the name, I didn't have a term for it. I just knew I can't keep doing this. I was sort of like saving myself through cutting off contact. And I had wanted to write about it. And it, as it often does, it's always better, I think, when you kind of like have time for it to percolate and to live with it. And then you have to find the right place. And so that Kindle single ended up like hitting a bestseller list. And then from there, like people were interested in the memoir. And that was really an amazing opportunity, because I love memoir, and I'd always wanted to um, write um, write a memoir, write that memoir, but it just like took waiting for like the right time to have the opportunity. So that was a wonderful experience. My editor was Shannon Welch, and then also on that editing team, an editor who's also a writer named John Glenn. And he is my editor now, by the way. So anyway, so I'd finished that, and I wrote personal essays, I wrote memoir. This was kind of like the ultimate expression of that part of my writing life. It didn't feel like, I wasn't going to write another memoir. It felt like, okay. And then I have an essay on, you can get it on my website through, it came out with Poets and Writers, or maybe around the time my paperback came out, something like that, about post-publication depression. And I hear from a lot of writers still who find that, like, they Google, why am I depressed after publishing a book? And it's an essay about, like, I interview different writers about kind of that, the letdown that can happen sometimes after, and also the big, almost an emptiness of not knowing what to do next
Hmm.
when you don't know what to do next. And that's kind of where I was at, honestly. So I really didn't know. And I was like looking up job lists, I was like, maybe this is the end of my writing career. I just didn't know where to go from there. And I remember one day I was picking my son up from school. He was young, like in elementary school. He's kind of precocious. And maybe he said, what did you do today? I don't know. I went for a hike or something, trying to figure out what to do. And he's like, why don't you write a novel? He was a big reader. And my best friends, like various people would say that to me. I don't know. I mean, of course I always wanted to, but like, how could I? And then it was just kind of like a fuck it kind of moment. Like, I'm just going to try, but I needed an idea, like a really good idea. And I wanted to write about a Brooklyn family moving to Maine because it was such kind of culture shock to move from Brooklyn to this town. But I didn't. And then I also was interested in this something that had happened. There was something sort of similar in my community, and that was happening in all different kinds of communities. But particularly the idea of a student saying no, and that was very resonant for me. Probably coming off the estrangement, like that.
Mm-hmm.
To me, there's something about like that authoritarian power, whether in the home or globally or nationally. And so when my son was starting 6th grade, I went to this little cottage on the coast of Maine for a weekend. I had a cold, like I do right now, actually. And it was cold, and I had my little space heater. It's not like a heated cottage. And I had all these books with me, and I was reading, and I had my notebook. And then, I don't know, it just came to me like those two ideas, put them together, Reese's peanut butter cup. And then from there, the hardest part was like getting the idea. And then there were other hard parts too, because I rewrote it like a million times. But yeah, so of course I always wanted to write fiction. Like novels were everything to me, like as growing up, but to give myself permission, even though Michelle, I'd published other books,
Mm-hmm.
it was a big, because when you publish a nonfiction book, you generally you write a book proposal, and that book proposal can be 75 pages and take many months, but still you have a contract before you start. And I knew that fiction's just not like that. You write the book and that's what you sell. And so it was going to take years and a lot of just belief in myself, or just belief in like a dream, and a lot of help along the way too, because I had a lot of readers reading along the way, like friends who were reading for me.
I love hearing this story because now that I've read the book, I know which parts of you are in the book. I'm like, oh, so she's got the memoir, and then there could be another memoir, and I'm picking up the pieces of, oh, I know where Jessica is in the book.
It's so funny that you say that. I mean, yes, there are parts of me in each of the characters, but I'm definitely very Hazel. And then, there are parts of me that are Claire too, but yes, definitely like it's not a spoiler, because in chapter 1 you get to know Hazel and like all of her dreams, as a bookworm and as like maybe someone who wants to do something in that world. And yeah, those were my dreams, and that was me since I was little. But I didn't. It wasn't in any way within the realm of reality that those are things I would go do. So I haven't taken a creative writing class since I was in high school.
Love hearing that. That inspires me. Because so often we do hear, oh, I did this writing class and I have my MFA and I have this and that. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I don't. Uh, the part that you said that got me was that you needed some time from the estrangement to write the memoir. And I went, oh, ding, ding, ding. That part's in the
Yeah.
book.
What?
That
Oh,
part's in the book.
yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. And that was a lesson I had to learn. I actually tried to write a memoir that made it pretty far in the publishing world, like way, way earlier. I had found an agent. There was used to go through like this book. It was like Jeff Herman's book of literary agents, and you'd sit at Barnes and Noble and just page through. And I went through to S until I was like, oh, I know that guy. He was in my college dorm, and now he's like a young agent. Um, I was so unprocessed, I think, in the estrangement and as a writer, and I was just young. And so it went through past editors into marketing committees who are like, kind of giving yes or no's. This is like decades ago. And it would be like one editor or committee would say it's too emotional, and another would be like it's not emotional enough. Like it was a very opposite feedback. And that's when you know that it's just like not working. It's not the right time. And then in the end, I do think it's often like such a blessing in disguise when you're sort of forced by powers that be to wait and get better. Because when I did the memoir I wrote, what I did at the right time, and I'm very like satisfied with it. And it was a really, really good experience. And then I just don't know. I mean, sometimes I think, oh gosh, why didn't I try and write a novel in my 20s, in my 30s? Like, but I don't know. I think there's something, there are a lot of debut novelists in their 50s. I'm about to turn 53. And I don't know. I think one of the things, and I think you can write, of course, you can write a great novel at 25. And like, it's just it would be a different perspective on the world, right? But there's something about like having some, I don't know, some like wisdom or like experiences gained or weathering of your just humanness that I think comes across for me when I read other novelists who have like baked longer.
Yes. I totally agree. I see that in your book. I'm in the middle of Annabelle Monahan's newest one and that's just love and romance but at the same time there's a lot of that too because the characters are older and they have more of the life experience and I definitely see that and I can appreciate that I say it all the time. If I could go back to 25, but with the brain and the knowledge that I have now at 43, I would be so far ahead by the time I got to 43.
It, of course. I mean, exactly. I think that like if I could go with my insides to high school, to college, to elementaries, I mean, it would be amazing. Like I would love it. Yeah. So I don't think, you would feel the feels and have had the experience as a reader if I had written a novel at 30.
What does your son think since you credit him as go write a novel, mom? That's what you should do. And here it is.
I mean, honestly, like that might be the best part because he also, there's so much rejection along the way. And like today's my pub day and when you post this and like what you can't see is like the times where I would get emails and he'd be sitting there next to me on the sectional and I would start crying. And like all of the times I needed to rewrite or I needed to rework or I needed to like dig in and I didn't know if I could do it. And he saw all of that. I mean, to go from sixth grade to 11th grade, seeing this happen. So now for him to see this part, it is the best because he's seeing that like it's possible. And it doesn't have to be a creative dream, just like anything, just like positive change, like wanting something and working really hard to make it happen. It can work. So it's been, I think, really, he's so proud and he's so excited and he's like coming to every event on the book tour. He's like, I am planning, all my summer jobs around that. I have to be there for these things. And I just came to his creative writing class actually at his high school and they had me talk about writing and that was so cool because they're in a fiction part of the year. So yeah, that's really, really special, especially because he saw all the different, failures along the way or all the different like hills and
Yeah.
valleys.
I love that. Mine cried. I think they cried more than I did as the books arrived, as the party happened. And they have a very warped sense of who I am, though. I've shared before, my daughter thinks that she's a Nepo baby. And I'm like, but we're not famous and we're not rich. And where do you think who are you? But she's like, oh, I'm going to be a Nepo baby then.
No, but I do think, I mean, I never knew anyone who had written a book growing up. And I think
Same.
if I had, it would have just felt really, really different. In fact, I didn't know someone personally, I guess until, I got to college, like professors who had written books. And then I had one friend in my 20s who got a book published. And that was earth shattering to me because I was so in awe. And I also was like, I want that. And I don't know if I can ever get that, but I do think there's something extremely powerful about like envy,
Yeah.
and it showing it like it's like a compass pointing you to like what you really deep down want and won't allow yourself to try and get. So I actually was just joking. I do think I think if your mom wrote a book, you are a Nepo baby in the sense that like that's really special, and to see your mother be able to do something really hard like that, because let's face it, it is really hard. And it takes a lot of gumption,
Hmm.
I think is powerful for them.
She's going to be so happy you said that. I will show her. Look, you've made it. You're a Nepo baby. She's like, I told you. She's 9. So, yeah. Yeah. I love this. So, are you working on another novel? Is there
I am.
something in the works?
I am
Yay.
actually, and it's funny because that whole idea, that's probably why I brought up the whole envy thing, because that's a theme. Yeah. So yeah. What's so great is the thing that's excellent for me is that Hazel, I had to learn how to write a novel, and I had to find myself, my tone, like my voice as a writer. But now I can take that and like put it into another, world and into
Hmm.
other characters. And then the other thing that's really cool is I have this wonderful agent who, is so excited to read, and my editor's like, what, tell me more. Like, what's that? So it feels so different. Actually, there's a whole thing about how like writing, and maybe this is going to happen soon, but like the sophomore novel is very difficult, sort of
Yeah.
like the sophomore album. But right now in this super early stage where I'm just like being creative with the pages, it feels like much more supported, because before it was like I was just out there in the wilderness, and the
Hmm.
support was, luckily I had these friends and my husband and son, you can do it, but it felt more just, I don't know, probably like 2% chance it'll work, and now you still never know if the thing you're working on is going to become a book or just work. But just to like, I was at a bookseller conference last week, and just to have booksellers say, what are you working on? And I'm really excited I want to read your next thing. I want to sell your next thing. When my first novel hasn't even come out yet, is amazing. Yeah.
Yes. And I feel that when you like someone's book, you're going to like whatever else they write. That's how I found. Oh, you've got another one coming out. Let me get my hands on that because I enjoyed the first one. I have enjoyed what you've written before, so I definitely believe that. I mean, that's why honestly, that's why I'm reading Annabelle's book right now. I'm like, oh, I read last year's, and I know that this year I know what I'm going to get from reading the book, and so for me, needing like a distraction of a romantic little love story where it's a no-brainer, great. I can totally digest that in like 5 days and then go on to, something that's more in depth after that. So I definitely agree that once you like something from an author, you're going to most likely like whatever else comes from
Oh,
that author.
totally. And I have so many, like today, Kevin Wilson's new novel comes out, and I got to read the advance copy. It's so good. Run for the Hills. But like I read every Kevin Wilson. They're just writers where you pre-order, you're going to read the book the day it comes out, and you're going to love it because you
Yes.
love all of them, and you want to go to the next place with them as they, develop and change. And yeah, so now I'm so hooked on fiction. Actually, this one of the booksellers I was talking to last week, she said something about like that. Well, now that you've tasted the sweet elixir of freedom that fiction brings, something like that. And it's so true. Now it's like I look back at my nonfiction work and I'm like, how did I do that? Because there's so many, it's just much more, you have to tell the truth first of all. Like there's
Right.
just a lot more, I don't know. The, there's emotional freedom, of course, but there's just something, I think, after having written, lots of memoir and personal essays, and just like article, a little bit of journalism too, to then go into just complete like creative freedom has been so exciting. And it feels like just a completely like just opening up this whole new part of my life as a creative person, an artist, writer.
I love that. I'm so excited for you. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Happy Pub Day. Where can everybody find you and buy Hazel Says No?
Oh my gosh. You can buy Hazel Says No. Look, should I go get that copy?
Everywhere. Yes.
Buy it everywhere. You can buy it at your local indie bookstore. Um, you can buy it, yeah, at Barnes and Noble. You can buy it wherever books are sold. Absolutely. You can listen to the audiobook. I've talked to people who are getting advanced copies who have both read it with their eyes and listened with their ears. There's an amazing narrator named Emma Galvin who's also done, she did a Judy Blume book. She did The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. Like she's a Carnegie Mellon trained actor. She's fantastic. She knows Brooklyn. She knows Maine. And you can find me, you can find me at my website, jessicabergergross.com. You can find me on Instagram too much and Jessica Berger Gross. I have some lingering like on Facebook if you wanted to try and friend me.
For those who are still on Facebook.
Instagram and my website, and then just like go to your bookstore today.
Yeah.
The cover is really cool. I don't know if you can see on here, but the image goes all the way there. The drawing
So pretty.
Goes all the way through underneath.
I have the paperback arc, so mine doesn't go all the way through. So that's gorgeous.
Yeah. And I'm so excited for people to read it. And thank you so much for spreading the word. I hope that people watching, listening will read and then tell friends to read and have it be your book club book and discuss, because these characters are not perfect and there's so many twists and turns along the way and deeper, meatier things to discuss, as you know, and things that will make you jump out of your seat, as you said, or cry or DM me in the middle of the night.
Yes.
That can happen. So, yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much, Jessica.
Thank you. I appreciate this so much, Michelle. This was so fun.
This is such a great read. And if it's really hot in the summer for you, there is some parts that have to do with winter and snow. So it'll cool you off. But definitely go pick up Hazel Says No. Jessica is amazing. I can't wait to see what she comes up with next. And I am so happy we got to connect and to read this amazing book. I can't wait for it to come out on screen because I know that it will. And then we can all say we knew Jessica when.